Hey guys, I'm back with the 13th part with Kassra Zargaran here on the couch at home. Really, second day, it's already getting towards evening again. And thank you so much for taking the time and for being so open. I can only keep repeating it. Many people already find it difficult to talk about their lives. But of course, especially when you're actually involved here, when you're a part of this structure, we talked about that in the first part. Whether they're murderers? Yes. No. Here too, I'd like to start with that question before we get back into the Civil War situation. On the evening of the so-called expert betting office murder, yes, Kassra, the victim of the club, the victim of the decision. Did you also feel like, okay, I'm still somehow a victim here too?
The question, no, basically not, because at the end of the day, I put myself in this club. Of course, also in a kind of irresponsibility in my life, so I can talk about it from that perspective now. I wasn't forcibly recruited, I put myself into this structure. Of course, it was in a situation where I couldn't foresee at all where things were headed. Still, I went into this charter as well. Everything happened that way because I chose it. So I can't really talk about being a victim, and I don't even want to, because I don't think that would do the situation justice. In the end, someone else was the victim, not me. Yeah, it's just, you have to keep it brief. Sorry, I know you wanted to speak. Please don't be mad.
No, isn't it your video, not mine?
It's just to say briefly. It's natural, you just have to be aware of it. I suppressed and ignored it, acted foolishly and lacked experience. You can name many, many things that I simply didn't take into account. Lack of life experience, idiot, just wanted to do it, whatever. Be aware that in a criminal life, there will always be a peak when everything turns upside down. Especially in a situation like that, with events unfolding as they did for us, that's all it was in the end. It was only a matter of time before something like that happened, especially with everything that had happened before. And also the whole setup, the way the charter was lived, that's the end. At the end of the day, how a criminal life can end, even for those watching, that's what I wanted to say about such a life. Only ends like this. Either with death, with prison, and with suffering, misery, and unhappiness on all sides. And like I said, that's why I can actually call myself trash.
You know what's really missing for me in this story, right? Or, well, not really missing. It's there. So there's someone else coming from Cologne. A call, bro, just to say goodbye. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it just doesn't fit right now. It just doesn't work. Period.
Of course, it could be that he signed up in the morning and was already there, but it just doesn't work right now. Do your thing. We'll get in touch.
Exactly. We'll get in touch. What else? Just out of my old taste, out of my old attitude, I was also very impulsive, very opinionated, and I can definitely see myself in some of your characters. He's there. Did anyone go to the Sahara? You have to see someone? What is this? What did you get us into? What was that? We should make an announcement, you jerk. I might have told the president and the sergeant, just beat me up now. What kind of mess have you gotten us into? Didn't anyone freak out? I'd say, bro, the LKA is standing there. We're just reading the news feed. The place we were in just got shot up. Our opponent, as everyone knows, nobody freaked out there and said, who ordered this crap? I can't just sit there and watch the president.
He calmly eats 20 cheeseburgers.
No matter if it was the smallest light, I would have said, Burger King, here's my stuff. What mess did you get me into?
Into? But it also shows how dim-witted the clientele is, or don't you think so? But it shows simply the types of cognitively incapable people you encountered there and the inhumane personalities among them. I was part of this structure. So of course, it's a totally legitimate question, and it's also understandable. That's just how it is. This charter was, of course, always set up in such a way that it was always at war and always whatever happened. That's intentional, and what they wanted, that was the attitude of the charter. We've talked about this before, the violent charter. By far the most violent charter in Europe, or rather in Germany, and also ranked very high across Europe when it comes to this violence. A tendency toward Denmark amid all this violence and war. Affinity in history. And accordingly, that was also expected from the people, so it was imagined, or let's say subtly expected, that they would, of course, commit acts of violence. That's obvious. And in this situation, to go up to the president and say, dude, are you kidding me? I think tomorrow, on Tuesday, an Aftermath Kalashnikov 47 would have been shot into your house. You can count on that. So you definitely would have not gotten out of this situation easily, because if you had done that in this situation, let's play this out. Philip Schlaffer knows, okay, he made an opening move. Yeah, so now it's done. Police are at the door, various people involved in the crime. Some knew, some didn't. That's my version, and I'm sure of it. And now, if someone steps out of line, alone or with others, and says, are you kidding me? You dragged me into this. You, as a president who thinks the way you do you have someone like that? Now just play that through for a moment, because you had a position like that. I was never a president, but you had a leadership role, even if it was a small one.
I'm being hypocritical right now.
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. It's not about morality right now, it's just about his point of view. Take a moment, what do you think this guy means to you?
Traitor.
Potential traitor and a danger to you?
Yes.
That means what's the next move?
He has to go.
He just revealed himself as the weak link in the chain. I assume that if pressure builds, he could put me in danger. He could have me jailed just because he said he doesn't feel like it. That makes him a potential source of danger for me. Get rid of it. That would be the next one. People aren't stupid. You know what I mean?
No, I was just arguing from a double standard. That's really how it is.
But that's what you said. I didn't really think that was true.
No, it's a double standard. Comparing my new and old lives, I argued from my new perspective and would have seen it the same way.
That's why, of course, someone had just been killed there, so he was killed too. Then someone stands there and says, are you kidding me, dude? We'll sort everything out.
Has just burned itself into my brain. I hope I can get it out again. I almost get the feeling here when I see this behavior, some already thought, great, I get this for CFEW.
Yeah, that's clear. Of course, that was the goal. Completely from him and a few others. That's the award. That's like the Champions League trophy for them. Sounds pretty crazy now. Sorry, guys. Don't misunderstand. That's how they saw things back then. That's a Champions League award, first place.
They had already seen their new pad in front of their mind's eye.
And let me tell you about a situation. I'm jumping right now. My lawyer, attorney Shopper, is clever. Greetings. He was clever. Even in areas where I wouldn't have seen it or didn't think he needed to act, he did. We had a court case where the party always drew like this, so it always ended up scribbled.
Boredom during the trial?
Yeah, I just kept drawing like that. For some reason, my lawyer threw it away during the break. Only when he was taken away during the lunch break, when he was escorted out at lunchtime. Yes, then I eat too, and they're escorted out by the court. During a break, he walked by and tossed a piece of paper in the trash. My lawyer sees it at some point during those 5 years, goes over, opens it. 50 View Charter, 50 View Crew. He painted it in a graffiti style as he was once a graffiti artist. Filthy Few Crew means the entire charter is Filthy Few. It's like...
While you're sitting in a murder trial.
Faces a possible life sentence, then receives it.
But can you let someone like that out again?
You don't have to ask me about that. I think the community, and you know exactly what my answer is. But I'm not a lawyer either, and I wouldn't presume to judge such things. That's something professionals should do. Lawyers. And also experts should do. I don't want to presume to do that at all because, of course, I'm also emotionally affected. That's why I don't want to say anything about it. Let's leave it at that.
But that still has something to do with pride. Well, at some point it works. I also demanded rehabilitation, and I got it, and I'm very grateful to the people who
supported my rehabilitation,
believe in my and your rehabilitation and experiences. You sit through a murder trial. At some point you also request outings and so on, but you are still sitting there in the meantime. For me, it's really something where I say, wow, that has something to do with pride. So to say during a trial, we are later the Filthy Few crew or Filthy Few charter, where I would say, okay, that has to do with pride that we killed someone. And I would say that someone responsible for resocialization should later be involved with assessments, statements, or relaxations and so on. I would say anyone who comes out with pride, I would say, but there are still a few years missing. Prison mentality.
And above all, there hasn't been any processing of the crime yet. There is, I'll leave us there with that. We're jumping around a bit right now, but it's a very lively conversation we're having. I think it's awesome too. It's also the case that a few fled to Turkey. Not all of the people involved in the crime did.
I know Kara.
Yeah, Ebro, Kara, and a few others too. 3 or 4 members, 2 left, but the others remain. And they also posted pictures of themselves on social media with Chifu patches. One of them was also photographed here in Berlin by the Springer Press, I think. Bild took the pictures. At the time, Peter Rosberg, a well-known journalist who covered organized crime, was involved. I think they once photographed him, a member somewhere, and they wore it in public, like 50. Few. That's natural, and it was the entire chapter that was investigated. They didn't grade it. Instead, they investigated everyone involved due to reported issues. 30 people at the door, which wasn't the case. Because of that, they started proceedings against nearly all members, prospects, and hangarounds. Of course, be that there was still someone else involved somewhere, someone I didn't see, for example, whatever. Of course, yes. An accused defendant in the Soder murder case, a 50 few, was also found on him. That's a fact. He was acquitted. We're not claiming anything else. But it's also a fact that a Hitler portrait was found during the search of his house. It's documented, and a 50 few t-shirt with the death head isn't easy to get. That's black and white. No, black and white is only a very specific death head, and that's only black and white too. And that's only given for murder, as an award, as a distinction. That way the community and viewers can decide for themselves.
They're smart enough for that.
Exactly, they can make up their own minds. And then the Hitler portrait is just on top of it, so you're really deep into the topic when it comes to all this Nazi garbage.
Of course, that's not hanging there by accident.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't just end up there. It's definitely not just randomly in a CD box as a fan. Unless he listened to Nazi music, and that's the reason, you know that's why. I totally agree with you on that.
You're sitting at Burger King, eventually everyone is full, you're already stuffed. Sorry to be blunt, but I would have felt the same, and I'm a good eater too.
Piece of a cheeseburger.
Cemetery. Okay, then it will be resolved at some point.
Yes, resolved as in we finish eating and all return to the Sahara together at night. Yes, it was 2 in the morning or so. An hour later we were there. Around 3:30 or 4 we were at the Sahara. We arrive. And then we sat there for 10 minutes and said, hey, come on, let's close up. Let's go to Salah's place. He's a former member. At that time he was still a member, but he left during the trial. He was later separated due to serious illness. He owned several shisha bars. Many in Berlin are open 24/7. And then it was like, hey, come on guys, let's go to Salah's, to Salda, to the shop. The guy from Cologne went home, or rather to the hotel, and there were just a few of us left, a few prospects, a few hangers-on, a few members, and of course Kadir, and then we drove to Ashanti in a couple of cars. Back then in Shanti, that's somewhere in Nollendorf or something. If I remember right, we parked at a square and then sat outside in the outdoor area. It was January, but it wasn't very cold, so we sat outside for about 10 minutes until Katie arrived. He went in with Salah, returned and said, "Members, come with me and leave your phones." Of course, we stood up, put our phones down, and walked in a line, almost like a duck march, knowing something would be discussed. There were a few people together, but just a handful, not everyone was there. And then we walked around the block. Anyone who knows that corner, it's not the same cafe anymore. I'd already been there once for filming with Spiegel on site. I think it's not even rented out anymore, or something else is in there now. Anyway, you can walk around there. We then walked around the block and behind the building. Cardi stood there at the time, as I mentioned in court, and said, "Listen up, guys. Briefly about today, what happened today, I'll talk about it once and never again, and we'll talk about it here once, or rather, I'll address it now and never again. And no one will bring it up or talk about it anywhere, just so that's clear." Everyone present, they know if they were, writes their lawyer on the note. There's Hati. Hati was the secretary, or rather the treasurer, who took care of this lawyer issue because he also had to pay them. I'll give them the number and the lawyer's address or name. And my lawyers will take care of everything and get in touch with your lawyers. And no one is to mention this, understood? We left again, took the phones, and I spoke to Ali, who also fled to Turkey. I said, "Take me home, I'm done here. Today I'm finished at 5 in the morning." At some point I remember we got into a white smart car. He drove me home. We then drove along the Ries, the Residenzstraße, past the crime scene, but full of police, where the whole area was packed. Also forensic medicine, us. Everything was outside. You can't imagine, like the whole area was cordoned off and all that. Drove home. Then I went inside the door, and my sister was visiting me. Back then she was in Berlin for the course, for the training she did. Yeah, it doesn't matter what she did. She studied something and took the training or whatever. Professional development woke her up. I said, "You have to go." "What's going on?" I said, "Yeah, you have to go. I don't know. I just don't want a house search or something like that to happen here." They knew about my lifestyle. It wasn't my first house search. Okay, all right. With the little one, also my partner, just the little one, she woke her up, packed everything, sent her to the car.
What do you say at home?
Out of my lineup. They knew what kind of life I was living, yes.
Yes, but that's just it.
But of course she said, "Why, for what reason? It doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about it." I did. She knew I was private. So I didn't live a transparent life with her.
Led?
When it comes to my club life,
Okay, I understand that. At least in part, yes. But do you come home and say, "I messed up," or "We messed up"? You have to go.
no, that's already too much information. Too much information. No.
Or it's crap. It happens.
No, that's not it. You need to leave. Yes, I want her gone. There may be a house search soon, and I don't want them here if special weapons and tactics arrives. Nobody's asking? She asked, but it doesn't matter. Just pack and let her handle it. It wasn't the first time. She knew I wouldn't talk to her at my club or answer, no matter how many times she asked. That's my point. She knew that I didn't share any transparency with her when it came to my club matters. I wasn't transparent about it at all. This isn't the first time this has happened. I tell her about it.
Well, I also have...
Wait, just a moment. And then she got in. My sister, they packed their things quickly, put everything in, out of the car, and then they drove straight to Hamburg. And that was also recorded by telecommunications surveillance, which was still active from the earlier Kadir murder contract and brawl investigation. And that could then be verified. The statement that this is true.
Good. Family, daughter, sister pack their things. You're sitting in your room. It's 5, 6, 7 in the morning.
Yes.
State of mind?
Everything's screwed. It's over me. I think I didn't sleep at all for 2 days, and then I napped for about an hour and got up again. So for me, it was clear, okay, fly every day. At any moment, it's possible that the door could burst open. And then a few days passed.
Day-to-day business, but I still have to ask, what are those days like? It just sounds like the days are okay. Then I didn't sleep for 2 days, but...
No, it definitely was.
What are those days like? Do you just follow your usual morning routine and decide to get yourself something nice?
Croissant and...
Get myself a nice tea and sit down for a bit, enjoy the January sun maybe if it's out or something like that.
So you definitely went out to eat, that's for sure. But to describe that exactly, no, After the incident, club life changed completely. We stopped meeting and lost all structure. One person after another left was arrested. It started with the shooter, then with Chenkai Taiguksu, then Rami was arrested.
But they were arrested one after another?
Yes, step by step within 3 weeks.
Not a single operation?
No, an operation step by step, because the information situation was very different regarding the people involved in the crime. First of all, the shooter was arrested, then the driver of the getaway car I was in, the Frankfurter Tanzenkai. Then a Rami was arrested. Then, now I have to be honest, a few more were definitely arrested. Then another member was arrested. I can't recall the name now, but they're one of us. And then Selim was arrested. And then Kadir turned himself in. There was an arrest warrant and a leak about the nomads. The prosecutor's office gave us the info. They told us Ersoy Padir and Kadir Padir are now involved. Arrest warrants are prepared but still unsigned and unissued by the court.
Did you want to avoid the special weapons and tactics team or something like that?
Wanted to avoid the special weapons and tactics team coming, and the first ones fled to Turkey. Kadir turned himself in. The arrest warrant hadn't been issued yet. It was just drafted at the prosecutor's office, where we actually had a leak. The nomads had the contact, not us. They later gave him to us, Rake Freak at the time. It wasn't signed yet. It's issued afterward and then given to the judge for the arrest warrant. Or the app, let's say. And it hadn't been decided yet. And the judge had to approve that first. That was supposed to happen the next day. In a brief situation, Kadi then went to the LKA with a lawyer. Starhoff, head of the LKA, said, "Yes, I want to turn myself in. I think I have an arrest warrant." The officer said, "Excuse me, what, where, wait a moment." Then she went upstairs. No arrest warrant. There wasn't one yet. So no legally signed, enforceable, or even legally valid one either. Compliant executor. "No, you can leave again." "What now?" "Yes, you can go." Okay, so after that he stopped sleeping at home and only stayed at the hotel. And then he found out, okay, all right, the arrest warrant is now signed, and he turned himself in again. Or rather, I don't remember if he was arrested or if he turned himself in. No, he turned himself in, right. The second time he turned himself in because the arrest warrant was then issued or there was an existing arrest warrant.
How much time was there after that?
I was arrested about 2.5 weeks after the crime. Everything happened around then. We were together then, still in Leipzig, at the Germany meeting where we had that confrontation with Frankfurter Jürgen due to his vest. That is important at that point. That continued as normal during that time. Club life went on in normal quotation marks, but it was never like before.
So
It worked.
your charter is falling apart. The LKA,
His charter, our charter, yes.
the place is on fire.
The people are in custody.
The arrest warrants are for murder, right?
The file is partially accessible.
Then you argue over whether it says Denmark or Germany on the back?
In the meeting, yes.
I'm sorry, but that's surreal. If you weren't here and I commented online, I'd say, wow, I don't know, is that true? Yeah, because that's just so far out back.
That's how it was. We were watched and listened to, which is why things are like this. I have the chronology, which I also testified to, and they wanted to make it verifiable, whether I am recounting everything correctly and that everything is documented.
Yes, I believe you, but it is. I mean,
Just also for the viewers, because there are always people who, of course, also...
that's not tangible for me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You have completely different worries.
Of course it's crazy, but that's how it went, right? And
You'd rather tell a Germany meeting, my charter's about to blow up, you know what's happening?
funny enough, just briefly, since you mentioned the Germany meeting, Cenk Tabucci was once in West End, Walter President, also called Schnitzel Walter. That name seems extreme to me. He's not called Schnitzel Walter in the clubs, so that's the first time I heard the name. Walter approached us. I knew him well and we had a good relationship. I still remember. Paddy and I were at the meeting in person. The situation was the meeting was over. And then he came and said, there's always an email. Big house crew or big house crew means prison, just so viewers know. Big house crew means big house crew, which refers to someone who has ended up in prison. And there's even an email for that. After each event, an email goes to all distribution lists nationwide. across Europe and worldwide. Member 81. From HMC Berlin City or Northtown, whether in the city or hosting, is in Big House Crew and blah blah, stay strong, etc. for those who know. Of course, we sent out the emails and Walter read them, of course, and he came to us and said, hey, what's going on with you guys? And he said, yeah, no idea, they're messing around again and going crazy and, you know, all lies and nonsense. And he said, yeah, and I wrote to Fu in there. He said, okay, all right. He just said, if anything comes up, you know, if you need something, let me know. I'll send you something over. I said, yeah, thank you. It's all good. We're still managing. It's fine. Thank you and all that. That was the only time I ever saw Walter in action with Kadi. I know now that he's still in close contact with him. That information exists, and they're very close to it. Not me, but others. Exactly. Sorry, that's just how it was. He did. He tried to live a normal life, but it's beyond good and evil now, and no longer possible. And I was just functioning. I even went to IKEA, bought furniture for my partner so she could have some folding chairs on the balcony. And I was just functioning. I barely slept. As I said, after the protagonists were arrested, your access increased. Of course, the lawyers naturally want access to the files, and the police authorities also have to grant access to the files, especially when they are involved with someone. And that's when we first encountered our informants. Were revealed because Informant 1 and Informant 2 said so. You also have to write a summary in the arrest warrants. And for the people out there, you already have to make a short summary in the arrest warrants. On what basis? Why do you now consider someone a suspect because of this and also detain them?
That matters in a constitutional state, as every defendant deserves a good defense. And that also includes file access and transparency.
The accusations and their basis. That is a high
Standard of good law.
Of course, that's important. He needs to know the basis of the accusation so he can respond. That's a key point. And that was the first time for us. Also, this whole informant topic, which is very exponential, was extensively recorded there and also discussed.
You just can't believe it.
No, at first I was. No, I didn't go that deep. I suppressed and ignored a lot. No, just being with myself. Did I get involved when I was arrested myself?
Okay.
I noticed it. I also made sure that 1 or 2 members got lawyers. I even called there. We need a lawyer. Please go to the Gefangenensammelstelle detention center, report to the LKA and so on. And I was told, yes, I also heard that the informant labeled people, including me, as being in the video. It was played to him. The crime video, which hadn't been released at that time, was then also published. There was then this very well-known conference, which could also be viewed on YouTube, held by the Public Prosecutor's Office, police, and investigative authorities. Among others, there was a counselor who was then the senior public prosecutor of the Organized Crime Division, Peter Steyhoff, who at that time was the head of the State Criminal Police Office, and 1 or 2 other high-ranking police officers. They commented on it briefly, and I still remember being there that day. At that time, I was at Adenauerplatz on Kurfürstendamm at the Blockhaus. Then a member called me, Brother Club Brother, and I was sitting there with my affair at the time and a supporter. I won't forget that. And before this phone call happened, it was noon and I enjoyed going to the block. The guys make great steaks. No. Then this guy, Bülent, came in. That was the first time in a year and a half that I saw this man again. I had never seen him again. Bülent, former vice president. He came into the store, saw me, his face dropped. He did a half bow and went straight. To the left in the corner of the store is L-shaped inside. He went from my side to the right, his to the left, into the corner and out of sight. At that moment, I received a call from the member, confirmed by phone surveillance. Hey, where are you? I'm around. Did you see they released the crime video? I was just like, okay. He said, you can't see any of us at all. I said, okay, I didn't see it. What should we do now? That's fine too. There wasn't anyone there? And yeah, I just wanted to say, then I say, yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to say, you know who I just saw here? Bulent and the others? Yeah, okay. Yeah, give him a mean look, but don't do anything. Yeah, okay, hung up. And then I just thought, how can someone call me in a stadium like this and even bring up that topic?
Self-timer? You don't even know us.
Yeah, that's open to interpretation now. Das Richter said it's not admissible. In the sense of, yes, it's a statement, but it's not important for us right now. There are other things for that. But just the fact at that moment in that stadium where, you know, people are flying away, imprisonment, murder,
Everything is being monitored. It's only logical.
every little supporter knows that. To even bring that up as a topic, this whole topic, did you see it or did you see that? Is so hard to believe and understand for me. I thought to myself, man, what is going on there? I would have liked to throw my phone away even now. Yeah, and I was like, but all I said was, okay, interesting, okay, I don't know. That was my reaction to it.
The question that comes to my mind is also, why didn't you run? Why didn't Kadir?
Yes.
So we had heard about Kadir, good contacts with NECO Turkey. So NECO Turkey,
Turkish citizen, Turkey does not deport. It actually would have been easy. A few guys had already fled to Turkey before. They left before him, including Sambuda. Yeah, let's start with me first. I think that's more important for the viewers right now, since I'm sitting here with you. For me, I had the opportunity and concrete options. As I said, it's been about 2.5 to 3 weeks. After the crime, I was arrested somehow on the 28th, 29th. I was arrested. The crime happened on the 10th for almost 3 weeks.
yes.
After 2 weeks. And I already mentioned at the beginning in one episode that I did that. I had transferred a member from Lisbon, Portugal to us because he was having problems, but he was living in Portugal. And he also came during that period for vacation, a few days in Berlin and so on. And of course, he noticed that. Thank you.
For the translation, yes.
Just for the viewers, simply like that. And international papers focused on Europe, and many major media outlets covered it too. Reuters is an international thing, media company, and of course they covered it everywhere, so it wasn't just discussed in Germany. He came, I picked him up, we met, and that was also during that time. Then he said, is everything okay with you guys? I heard and read this and that here. I said, yes, I know the police lied and we don't know what's happening. They're going crazy, but it'll get sorted out. Later, we sat in the bar that evening, and then he said to me, listen, brother, of course you know. If you need to get away, if anything happens, let me know. Or I'll get you to Portugal, we'll take you to certain regions there. People say favelas. I've also seen people say there are no favelas, but they do exist there. Lisbon has areas of poverty, including some with tin shacks. I've seen it myself because I was there. We'll put you up there. You wouldn't be the first. He said a former Canadian from the Montboucher wars in the 1990s also lives there using false papers. He said, we'll handle everything for you. I'll give you money and arrange the passport. Then you go. Then you lay low here for a while. No problem. We'll support you. I said, thanks, but I'm not doing that. I have to face my responsibility. I'm not running away. I have a wife and child here and can't just leave them. My wife is completely dependent on me. Rent, everything, so I can't do that. I'm not doing that, so I'm not running away. I'd rather stay here. And that's why I decided to answer your question now, not to run away. I had the opportunity, but I didn't do it. Padir never commented on it. That's just my opinion. Why? That's also credited to him. I think it's not something you can credit someone for. That was clearly calculated. The man isn't stupid or naive. He clearly considered it. I believe that even after the whole process now, I'll skip the process, but still, he didn't expect that it could be proven against me and that you could actually be convicted for that. He was arrogant and overconfident, probably not expecting he'd have to prove it against me. It wasn't easy, just to be clear. There was never any clear evidence, and the clues are very... Yes, it wasn't easy from a legal standpoint to argue the case. The verdict is written in a very complex way, and he didn't expect that he could be convicted for it. I'm convinced because he wasn't at the crime scene and must have been confident. He never gave the order directly to that person in a way that it could be proven against him, and it wasn't a direct connection. And of course, also the possibility, if he later downplays it a bit, then he has the chance to get out of custody again. He's out of pretrial detention because he turned himself in and isn't a flight risk, which is typically the main reason for such detention. That was a clear calculation. You could run away, but that was his plan since his situation was different, like mine. I was there on site, I was an installer, and I'm on camera. He was likely at Hakiki, the well-known donut chain in Berlin. Delicious, by the way. Eating donut or sitting, maybe at Sahara or somewhere else. And therefore, it's a different starting situation. And that's basically the reason why, to answer the question again, I believe he didn't go on the run. And in my case, the situation allowed it. I couldn't do that to the woman.
Of course, it would have been easy, but did you have anyone you could confide in about what was going on with you? Neither my wife nor my affair.
I was like that.
Nobody, no.
No, I didn't have any buddies anymore. All the bridges behind me had collapsed from my old life or my normal environment. I moved back, left everything behind, and focused completely on the club. Although things changed in the last year, as we've discussed, I remained fully focused on the club in the years before that. The problem was later realizing I had to actually take the step to leave, because I was so deeply involved in this whole thing and this whole life around me revolved around the club and separate from the business side of things. That had nothing to do with it, but also my whole, this whole environment. Women and kids know each other. I work and live there, and she's there too. That's very difficult.
But actually, it's sad. I talk about it sometimes too. I didn't have anyone left I could open up to. Always being strong and never showing weakness makes you sick. If you have no one you can rely on, eventually it takes a toll.
Your eyes grow colder and more blank. Do you understand?
Marissa said that too. Even in old photos of me, dead eyes.
My old wife became my current wife, but she said my eyes look dead.
That's the mirror of the soul. Okay, the day of the arrest is coming.
Yeah, day of liability, arrest is coming, the date you mentioned.
But you knew it was coming?
I assume so. Sure, so many people have been arrested.
But I knew
that there was an informant issue. I was involved. They claimed they had recognized me. That was complete nonsense. I mean, I was there, but it was total nonsense. And that informant there, that's even later. We'll get to that. Very complex case court. Stay tuned, more crazy things happened there. I didn't want to spoil it or it wouldn't make sense. For the viewers, we want to keep things chronological, I think. And that's how it was. The people from Hamburg came. Your old partners, acquaintances we often dealt with came. Rakal showed up. Naturally, they noticed, and Kadi got along with them. They came and saw what was going on and offered to help financially and also to support us. In case the charter simply loses manpower on the street, that they would somehow provide compensation, so generally be there for us. Me and a brother, a former SMEM member, Kadim, I think, I'm not sure. We met with them, had dinner in the evening with Carl and Dari back then. That was at Berlin, Mite Olivia, an Italian restaurant run by a Turkish fellow citizen. It was very delicious. We went there very often and we met up with them, had dinner with them, we talked with them. Of course, we didn't talk about the crime itself, but rather what's going on. Police, what's going on? Police, what's happening? On what basis? Yeah, they have both directional and laser microphones. So Dari is really a topic. I don't know, because of his time in the army, he's kind of like that.
Yeah, he was a sniper, I think.
Yeah, a sniper. He also has bug detectors and actually found some bugs at their place. He told me about it once. He was really into the subject. I didn't know this technical stuff at all, and I remember being surprised by everything that's out there. I remember him saying they probably have directional microphones here, so you need to be careful. They're getting full clearance now, so feel free to look around. But we didn't discuss the crime. Of course not, obviously. It's just a question of what happened there. Like, yeah, someone got shot, they're trying to pin it on us and all that. They said, okay, all right, let's meet again tomorrow. We'll go through what we can do and all that. And we're at the Ritz, said Daria and Carl. We're at the Ritz. We agreed to have breakfast at the hotel tomorrow morning and said we'd pick you up. I went home around 4 or 5 a.m. I lay down, got there, and I couldn't sleep the whole week. And I lay down. And now comes the situation. It was like this. It was crazy. I lie down at 5 o'clock, lie there for an hour and a half, and suddenly I wake up. And on the streets where I lived, the building was relatively lively. Even though there were only 4 or 5 families, it was always somehow lively. At some point, you always heard something, whether it was the toilet flushing.
Doors slamming, the front door. So it's nothing special when there are noises.
Yeah, Berlin is like that. You rarely live alone in a house, and in apartment buildings, there's always something happening. Suddenly, it was completely silent. I'd never experienced that before, no sound at all. Heard. And then I sat up. I was lying like this, and here's the front door, or rather, here's the hallway that goes past me, and then I turn right into my bedroom. At that time, I was staying at Buxenweg 11 in the ground floor apartment. And I sit up, then sit upright in bed, looking like this. It's so quiet here. Listen again. Suddenly, boom, 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 the door flies off its hinges. I still see police, special weapons and tactics, down, police. Special weapons and tactics storms the apartment, running past me. They missed the door, ran past me into the kitchen, then right into the living room. I'm just left hanging here. What will you do now? Thought about it for a second. Okay, are you going to pull up this shutter, like the metal one you have here? It feels like it takes 5 minutes to get up and there's no shoe. So I thought, forget it. Before they shoot, because they will. I can't see the guy. Damn, man, and I knew them. I mean, the Spezialeinsatzkommando Berlin guys. Anyone who thinks they're a big, tough guy.
What's important is to look straight into the camera. Exactly, I'll give you some good info. There are sometimes people who say, I can do this. I did kids' floor gymnastics, kickboxing, and I'm a good street fighter. Some people are tough, but what if special weapons and tactics shows up?
I'll do that quickly. It's helpful to show people a mirror or present it to them directly. I also tell people, especially with all these demonstrations we have now, where police officers are really being provoked to the limit. Some police officers also sometimes act improperly. I also notice police officers are being pushed to their limits, and when they respond, they're labeled as the bad guys. They're just people too, yeah, and they also have a certain threshold, just saying. And then people are always, they can do whatever they want with the police officers. Yeah, I'll just tell you one thing. If you're in those areas and the special weapons and tactics team shows up, I can only give you one piece of advice. Lie down and don't move. That's a squad where you follow orders, it's no joke. Those guys will stomp on you too. They don't care and only appear in certain areas. United Kingdom terrorism remains. Grenzschutzgruppe 9 still exists, and after work, that's it. No discussion. You don't get up and say, hey, but my rights, I'm telling you, you don't do that. You do that once and never again. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And then you're really talking out of your ass. So to put it bluntly, and that's why, friends, don't even get involved in those kinds of things. They don't just come once, they like to come twice, even a third time, a fourth time. They like to use that as training. So keep your hands off of it, because that's also a consequence if you get involved in those areas, what you'll experience and what kind of police operations you'll have to deal with. That's not the knocking a door. We'd like to observe, then you can act like demonstrators toward police officers. I'm allowed to demonstrate here, but they kick the door open anyway. I'll say it now, not negatively. They destroy anything in their path, even shooting dogs and children. As bad as it sounds, they're not treated gently either. So friends, they're not just coming for fun, they're coming for a certain clientele who are begging for it. They target people who think like that. If you want to play gangster, they'll come for you too. And believe me, you just said yourself, after 24 police operation, special weapons and tactics, that destroys you.
That destroys you here?
And it's the same with me. You can't get rid of that anymore, so. With it also a consequence and a warning to those who now think they somehow need to get into this gangster life.
And the guys, they're practicing that 24/7, that's what I mean, that's training. They do nothing else, that's all they do.
Nothing else. For them, it's second nature. They come in, pop, pop, pop. Everyone knows where they belong.
And if someone thinks, now I'm going to fight back, they're just waiting for that.
Of course, they're fully equipped. They're fully equipped. A kick with all that equipment will break your leg. If you move wrong and they think you threaten the little one, they'll shoot you too.
I always thought it.
Yeah, it's just so people know this isn't a joke. Exactly.
I always find it embarrassing, and I have to say that. There are some videos, even from organized crime, from clan structures, and so on, when the Special Weapons and Tactics Team, Special Operations Unit or something like that suddenly shows up and storms the place. They're taken away in flip-flops and underwear, shouting at the camera. There were women and children here. Dude, they came because you're a major criminal.
Do you know the footage? Good, then you know the footage. It's like some Arabic thing. They remain objective throughout the story, just like we do. And well-known offenders, whether he's from a large family or not, it doesn't matter. It's about the individual person. Repeat offenders with serious criminal records, always in and out of prison, in, out, committing another robbery or a heist worth millions. We're not talking about stealing a Snickers for fun. We're talking about amounts in the millions. The Special Weapons and Tactics team comes, he stands there, tries to say something. Of course, they immediately took him down. For them, it's about neutralizing and restraining to eliminate the danger, yeah.
Self-protection to
also protect the colleagues who go in and the backup provided. And of course, he has sent. How do you put on these gloves with the plastic attachments, quartz gloves with these plastic attachments? A hit from him can quickly break your eye socket, even without much force. These trained guys know exactly where to hit. And then he collapses, breaks his eye socket, then goes on television and says, yeah, my eye socket is broken, and so on. I know it's not nice, but the guys never show up without a reason. They wouldn't act like that at your neighbors, nor at the other neighbors. It's a clear case of perpetrator-victim reversal. You know what I mean? I find that really, really terrible, especially at current demonstrations. Let's quickly discuss a political topic. But it's also very important for me to say this. There are always the police. I don't want to promote anything here. Now, I'm sure some people would say to me, yeah, look, they've got the police, they've briefed them.
they're getting paid.
And that's how he left himself. I briefed too. He can talk so well, he was well prepared. Guys, yeah, the Earth is also flat, and the Arctic loves another species. And so people, stay cool. Hitler on the moon and stuff like that, all cool. People at demonstrations, when you're demonstrating there, every protester, they provoke the police so much, go away. You are criminals, you do this. This system just monitors to ensure nothing happens. Of course, there is sometimes misconduct. We can talk about that too, but that happens individually as well. And the system is also flawed. We can talk about that too. But there are people who sit there and provoke. And at some point, the police officer says, colleagues from the study, at closing time, boom, restrained, taken down, and charged with resisting law enforcement. And then, God, you're aggressive. We've got something
Done. Ouch, what?
Is that supposed to be? That's so devious and also so unfair to the people. Because in the end, that's also a civil servant sitting there, earning his money. He hasn't earned any money. He has kids at home. And he doesn't feel like spending half an hour messing around with you like a chicken. And he also has his own limits. They're professionals, but you just have to take that into account. It's the same as with the boy in front of the camera, prison. In, out, prison, in, threatening people, stealing from people, repeat offenders, extremely aggressive, extremely dangerous. Special Weapons and Tactics arrives, gets bombed, breaks stuff. The criminal police beat me up, guys. Context is crucial. Not that misconduct can also happen there, and it's the average of society.
But there are big companies, good and bad ones, that's how it is.
And generalizations are not appropriate there.
We will talk about that in the next part. Are you still sitting in your bedroom? Yes, the Special Weapons and Tactics team rushes past you. We'll discuss that next. Kassra, thanks for your openness. This was intense. Honestly, I didn't expect so many parts, but we can't cut it short. No, it's important. Thank you very much, Thorsten, to you as well. And check out Kassra's book. The Persian is linked below. Thanks to all channel members and everyone else. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and comments are welcome. Give some props for this intensity. I hope you sense how we're in this movie. Thanks. And as always, I remain with an ahoy from the coast.